Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Slavie, where we make cards and other paper crafts. In today's card video, we're going to be making this beautiful card using the Lawn Fawn Special Delivery stamp set. That, along with this Birdhouse Add-On die, is part of the Lawn Fawn Valentine's Day 2021 release. Pardon me, I can't seem to speak. And I used the birdhouse in my Misty, and I stamped it out. I stamped the wood grain backdrops stamp on it from Lawn Fawn as well. The whole stamp does not fit the birdhouse, so I did it in two parts. I did stamp it out using ground espresso distress ink, and I rotated the birdhouse so that I would get a variation in the wood grain. I went in with vintage photo and ground espresso to color the birdhouse. And when I was done, there's also a little piece that comes with the Birdhouse add-on, and I used vintage photo and ground espresso on that as well, and to create kind of like the little pole, I guess, that the birdhouse sits on. Now, to make my background, I did use the Magic Iris add-on, and I attached the pull tab using some post-it tape. I thought that I would also ink blend the middle, but I did end up removing it before I continued on with my ink blending to make the background, because I decided I wanted the inside of the birdhouse a different color than the rest of the background. Here I am going in with tumbled glass and broken china. Tumbled glass is a really beautiful light blue color. You can also just use tumbled glass if you want to use a cloud stencil or just kind of lightly ink blend, but I thought it would be fun for me to try a different combination for sky, hence the broken china. And then when I was done, I removed the pull tab, I guess. Do you want to call it that? I don't know. And I used tumbled glass to blend that out the rest of the way. After that was done, I took my distress sprayer and I sprayed both the background and the tab to get a little bit of a splatter look. It's a little bit different than what I normally do. I actually think I prefer using just water with a paintbrush to splatter the background, because it creates more obvious like dots, I guess, of color, kind of like what I'm doing here. So this was just me smooshing some broken china and adding water and then splattering the background with it. I also did the same thing with the liquid stardust here from Lawn Fawn, and I find that it actually works a little bit better for me when I spritz it with water. And the reason for that is a personal preference. I don't like to use too much of it because I find that it rubs off. So if I use less, it seems to stick better, and especially with water. Yeah, so now we're moving on to the other pieces of the birdhouse. That was the interior. We've got the awnings and the inside of the iris. I am using wild honey and then going in with mustard seed to darken up those edges. Now, whenever I'm doing a scallop, I really like the look of coming in from underneath the scallop and moving up with the darker color, in this case mustard seed. And I'm doing the same thing here with those sausage pieces for the Magic Iris. I just really like that contrasting color. And then I used the combination of those two colors for my arrow that goes onto the background piece. And then I spritzed everything with my distress sprayer again, and I used more liquid stardust with some water to add splatters as well. I did go back and I did the same thing with the awning here. I may have forgotten, so I had to go back. Ever do that? Yeah. All right, everybody, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you as a subscriber so that we can go on this journey together. And if you are not new here, make sure you hit the like button. And if you're getting value, just hit the like button as well. Okay, so then when that was done, I did take my mustard seed color and I just went around the insides of the donuts because I wanted those edges darker. And for those of you who have built a magic iris, I don't know if you can tell, but it really bugs me when the inside is really white. So yeah, that was that. And then I started with the Copic Coloring. Now, for those of you who watch my videos, you know that I like to start with my critters. I don't know what happened. I totally forgot to press record. And then I realized that I hadn't pressed record when I started doing the branches. So you joined me halfway through the one branch. Okay, so for the coloring, I do like to do I like contrast. So I like to do a darker color with a lighter color. And for the whites, I do like to use the C1 and C00 combination. Of course, you can just use C00 or a different 00 from the grays and blend it out with the colorless blender. I find that that doesn't blend out as much as I would like, so I like to use the darker color in there. And then I colored all of these pieces in either reds or pinks, and then I've got that coral color combination. And I mentioned in a previous video, I think last week's video, that I didn't like how I colored the accessories in that video because it was just, I'm trying to get my feet wet with the stamp set and I wasn't super crazy about it. So in this one, I did get to explore it in a better way. So in this case, the hat, I am coloring so that the light source is in the middle, pointing straight at the hat, which I really like. Now, a little tip, you'll notice that I go over the edges where I put the darker color twice with my lighter color when I'm Copic blending, and that's because some of these colors don't like to play together very well. You can't tell when it's in a small area, but it really bugs me when I can see the transition between the two different colors. So I find that if I go over it again and add more ink, it actually blends out a lot better. So when you turn over your blended pieces and you see all the color seeping through the paper, that's not a bad thing. It means that you're getting a really good blend. So I want to really encourage you to not be afraid of that. Okay, let's talk about these boxes. I'm not crazy about how I colored these. I just want to put that out there right away. I do have another video coming up where I use the same boxes because I can't get enough of this stamp set, and I colored them in a different way. So when that video is out, I will come back and I will link it here so that you can see it. In the previous video that I previously mentioned, that's a lot of previouslys, I did talk about how this stamp set is awesome because you've got all of these little mail things and there's all these cute little sentiments. And as you can see, I'm using the ones that are not necessarily geared towards Valentine's Day. So even though the set was released with Valentine's Day and it can absolutely be used for that, you don't have to, which is what I really love about it. It's very versatile. Okay, so this leaf is from Hey Lady, and I ended up not using it, but I really love the way that I colored it. It's a 4-color blend. There's a really big palette here to work on, so it worked. But I wanted to share it in case you've ever wanted to color those and you weren't sure how to go about it. Now for the smaller leaves, I left out the YG67, so I just used the YG17, YG13, and G20 to get the blend on the smaller leaves. And that's just because it's a little bit smaller, so it just couldn't fit all those colors. But I really like how the blend lightens up to the G20. And I found this blend on Pinterest, I think, which was kind of awesome. And when all that was done, let's get to assembling. So you take that little flux capacitor piece and you go around and you adhere all of your sausage pieces. Now my paper is a little bit warped because of the way that I did the splattering of water. And then I went in with the mini glue dots and I attached them to the X's on those sausage pieces. Then the stabilizer pieces I attached using wet glue. And you just want to cover that part, you don't want to cover anything else. And I let it set up to dry. I like to keep everything together using washi tape, so then I removed the washi tape and I went about attaching the pull tab. I like to use 2 pieces and I like to sandwich that ring around them just to get that stability. I have had these come off, so I do make sure that I'm using the second piece for that, but I'm also letting my glue set up. I don't like to use tape runner or anything like that for this because I find that that's when I have trouble with everything coming off. I don't know what it is, so I just use the wet glue. Then I attached this piece and the little arrow that goes in it, and you can cut off the excess. You don't need it. From here, I attached this to my panel with the iris closed. That's where you want it positioned, so that the recipient can then open up the iris and see what you're greeting or what your surprise is on the inside. And again, my paper is a little warped, so I had to hold it down just until the glue set up. So once that was done, I took my card base and I adhered the inside of the ring or of the iris. You want to do this ahead of time because otherwise you're going to have a heck of a time trying to get it in there. So that's my recommendation for you. I then added one layer of foam tape around the back of the Magic Iris card front with paying attention to not interfere with the mechanism. And then those stabilizer pieces, that's the only place you want to put glue when you're adhering it to your card front. So that's the card. And then I started assembling the front of my card. The birdhouse, like I mentioned, that's the piece that kind of is the pole that holds everything together. And for whatever reason, whenever I make the Magic Iris card, I always forget how little real estate I have on the front of this card. So I made all of those extra pieces thinking, oh, I'm going to have like 3 branches. It's going to be awesome. And then I started assembling it and realized that I'm not actually going to have that much real estate. But be proud of me. I did not try to cram all of the pieces on there. I didn't use all the pieces I prepped for this card. And I love it. It's one of my favorite cards that I've made this year. So I hope you like it as well. So I like to start with my little critters and adhere their wings. Now you can see on the owl with the coloring, I mentioned this in the previous video, that I didn't like how I colored the top of his head. So here you can clearly see a shadow right down the middle. I just think it looks much nicer on the owl. So I also adhered the little pieces to the owl. He's the one who's dropping off all of the mail stuff for the Bluebird, who's so cute. I just love him. And then I really wanted to fit some green on this card because I felt like it was a little bit not as pleasing to the eye as I would have liked. So I wanted to attach some green. So I was able to manage to get these little pieces in the bottom. And the Bluebird is just getting all the love mail. He's got some really big fans out there. And it's my first time using this box add-on for special delivery. And I just love it so much. It is so cute. I love stuffing that box full of stuff. So the die set comes with a little die that cuts out the open box so that you can actually stuff stuff in it. And it was just so much fun to put everything in there. So before I go, I do want to let you know there's some cards at the end of this video that I think you would like to watch. So make sure you check out the rest of that content. And again, if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. You'll also see here in the card that I stamped out a heart in the middle there in the sentiment, but I didn't end up using it. And I made sure that all of those pieces were adhered in such a way that it wouldn't block the sentiment so that the recipient could actually see what they were getting. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This has been Slavie with Crafting with Slavie, and I'll see you in the next one.